Educators with Tasty Tuesday, Week 2. My name's Kayla.
I'm Jennifer.
And we're here to show you how to make some fun dip recipes for those game nights, Sunday football. You could do like a baseball game or some study snacks that you need for those pesky midterms we've got coming up.
Or even socially distanced gathering. First we have hummus, and then we have a zesty tomato salsa.
Keep watching for the recipes, and this is what you'll need.
You'll need a blender or food processor, 2 cans of diced tomatoes, a can of green chilies. I also saw canned jalapenos or jarred jalapenos if you like something a little spicier. A bunch of green onions, 1 or 2 limes, depending on how tangy you like your salsa, and a bunch of cilantro. I'm going to start with chopping the cilantro. Everyone's different with cilantro. I kind of chop cilantro the lazy way. Some people take the individual leaves off of each stem, and I don't have patience for that. I kind of just grab the top and rip some off. Sous chef, will you take this for me? Once I've pinched off some cilantro, I kind of bend it around to make it as condensed as possible. I hold it down with my hand and make small slices down the cilantro. Make sure that your hands are in a claw shape like so, which makes it a lot harder to chop your fingers when you're doing this. Alright, once you've done your initial chop, make perpendicular slices down the pile. And then like I did last week with the garlic, I'm going to anchor my knife down with one hand and go back and forth. Okay. Because the cilantro is going to go into the blender, it doesn't have to be perfectly chopped or finely chopped. The blender will take care of that. I just like to give it a head start. We're going to put the cilantro in the blender. And just so you guys know, you don't have to put the cilantro in first. With this recipe, it's really easy. You can do it in any step that you like. The basic thing is get all of the ingredients into the blender and push on. Next, I'm going to chop my green onions. Notice that I kept the rubber band at the end of the green onions. This keeps them held together for me, so it makes it a lot easier for them to chop. I'm going to chop off the top and discard those onions. Next, I'm just going to roughly put my knife through the onions. Make sure you move your fingers out of the way as you go. And I chop till about halfway down. If you really like green onion, you can do the whole thing. If you're not as big of a fan, you don't have to add them at all. It's really up to you. Other things that you can add to salsa, you can put white or red onion in. You can put fresh jalapenos. You can put chipotle peppers in. They come in a little can. You can put habanero peppers if you like it really, really spicy. You can put roasted tomatillos, which is kind of like a tomato, but it's green, and you roast it, and they're a little tangier than tomatoes. You can also use fresh tomatoes for this, and you can use cayenne pepper, which is, in my opinion, the most spicy. All right, next I'm going to put my tomatoes in. I got diced tomatoes in a can because it was easiest and most economical for me. And this one has a pull-off top, which makes it nice and simple. And you don't want to drain the tomatoes out of this can. You want to keep all of that juice inside the blender. It gives it a little bit of extra flavor and good consistency for the salsa. Next, I am going to use a can opener to open my chilies. Have you guys seen the videos where they take the can opener and go this way instead of up and down, and supposedly it's supposed to work better and it's not as sharp? I have seen it, I have tried it, it does work. But I've been using a can opener the same way for so long right now that I'm just stuck in my ways. So with the chilies, I actually do drain these. Green chilies aren't too spicy. There's a little bit of a kick there. But this is definitely, if you're looking for a mild salsa with a tiny bit of spice, this is what you'd use. And I'm going to put the whole can in. For a medium salsa, I would use jalapeno with the seeds removed, or pickled jalapeno. Pickled jalapeno and jalapeno with the seeds removed is about the same spice factor. And for spicy salsa, I would use habanero or cayenne, and make sure to remove the seeds from the habanero. If you are trying to choke a little bit when you have this salsa because you like it so spicy, have the habanero with the seeds in the salsa. Personally, I can't do that. Okay? Gonna seal everything up. Plug your blender in. A little safety thing that I do when I'm putting things into a blender is I don't plug it in until I'm ready to use it. This just ensures that there will be, at no point the blender will turn on and hurt you. And I'm going to start it on low. And notice I did a few pulses in there. The reason for the pulse is sometimes some of the ingredients get stuck underneath the blade, and those pulses help to pull them up. Last thing I'm going to do is put some lime juice in. One way to get more lime juice out of each lime is to actually roll it on the table before you cut into it. This helps to loosen up some of the juice. Hey. Okay. So I use 2 limes. If you don't like sour food as much, I would only use 1 or maybe just a half. Last thing I'm going to do is put in a bit of salt. I like to put in about a teaspoon. Okay. And again, we're just going to run the blender through this just a little bit, just to get it mixed in. All right, it's all done.
So you got the rest of the following. And now you just pour it into whatever serving bowl you'd like to have it in.
You can pair this salsa with your favorite chips. I use blue corn tortilla chips because they have that blue color that is pretty rare in fruits and veggies. Every single color of fruits and veggies contains different nutrients that are good for our body. And because we don't see the blue as much, if I have a chance to take it in, I will. tahini, olive oil, 1 can of garbanzo beans. We've decided to double the recipe, so we have 2. Lemon, garlic, ground cumin, and salt. And we're gonna put some paprika on top for garnish. I'm gonna start by putting in our garlic into the blender. Peeling garlic can always be kind of a pain. I'm gonna show you guys an easy way to peel garlic. First thing you're gonna do is take your knife and put it flat down on the garlic. So your knife is parallel to your cutting board. And then with the palm of your hand, you're going to carefully crunch down on your garlic. What it does is it crushes your garlic, making it really easy for the peel to come right off. Then, I'm going to cut the rind off of the garlic, which is right at the bottom. Okay? I'm going to repeat for the next 2 cloves of garlic. Now that my garlic is all crushed, I'm just going to run my knife through it a little bit. Because this is going in the blender, it really does not have to be too finely chopped. The blender will take care of that. First thing we're going to do is put our garlic in the blender. Next up is lemon juice. The recipe calls for a 1/4 cup, from 1½ to 2 lemons. I've decided to use 2 lemons. I thought 3 might be a little bit too much. Some lemons are bigger than others. The ones that I got were rather large. The last thing we're going to put in here before we start blending is salt. One to two teaspoons is all you need. I just measure in the palm of my hand. If you don't feel comfortable with that, feel free to use a measuring spoon. And again, turn the power on, stir it on the left. I turn this all the way up to high. Hummus is a really creamy texture, so we don't want any chunks. So I turned it up to high to make sure that that garlic is actually absolutely pureed. After that, you want to let your garlic and lemon and salt blend sit for 10 minutes. That'll help the garlic to settle down a bit. It's been 10 minutes. Now we're going to put in our tahini. Recipe calls for 1/2 cup. And we are doubling the recipe. So I am going to put a full cup of tahini in. Again, I'm going to just do this by sight. If you don't feel comfortable with that, feel free to measure this out with measuring cups. Also, keep in mind, the tahini is kind of similar to natural nut butters, like peanut butter or almond butter. It has oil on the top. You can mix it up if you like. You don't have to. Just make sure you get a cup of that tahini in, and the oil is really great too. Gives the hummus a really nice creamy texture. So if you just get both of those in there, you'll be fine. The blender will definitely blend it. Okay, now that the tahini is in, we're going to blend again. Okay? The recipe calls for a few tablespoons of ice water after this. I like my hummus nice and thick, so I'm not going to put any ice water in yet. But if you like a more thin hummus, feel free to do that now. Next, we're going to put in some garbanzo beans. My garbanzo beans are drained. Since we're doubling the recipe, we're using 2 cans and 1 teaspoon of cumin. Regularly, the recipe calls for a half teaspoon. I'm going to do a whole because we're doubling. Again, I'm going to eyeball this. If you don't feel comfortable with that, it's fine to use a measuring spoon. Now, while I'm blending this, I'm going to drizzle in olive oil. Next, I'm going to scrape down the sides of the blender. And we'll do the same thing. Starting with low and working your way up to high. Okay, it's looking nice and creamy right now. I'm going to run it for about another minute and then it'll be ready to go. Okay, this is ready to go. I'm going to unplug the blender because safety first. And we can just scoop this into whatever serving bowl you choose to use. See that nice creamy texture that we're getting here? Now, like I said, if you prefer a thinner hummus, you can put some ice water in there and it'll thin it up. The traditional Mediterranean way to garnish hummus is going to be sprinkled paprika and drizzled olive oil. So that's what we're gonna do.
Pair your hummus with some freshly cut veggies like carrots or celery. You could do some pita bread or crackers, any sort of dip vessel you see fit. And you've got a nice snack. Here's our final product. We've got a nice yummy hummus with some freshly cut veg, a super fresh salsa recipe, and some blue pork chips. This is a perfect spread for any sort of get-together that you're having, or a nice night in with your book.
Don't forget to tune in next Tuesday. We'll be making enchilada stuffed spaghetti squash.
Thanks for joining us this Tuesday evening for Tasty Tuesday. Hopefully we'll see you guys next week.
Have a good night.